Starflight. They all put so much effort into making it a very friendly looking school. Like first you think of all these, it's like, oh well, it's these drab caves in the mountains, but no, it's like they have lights in there and it's all decorated, and they even have like a school cafeteria, which just makes me laugh.
Like it's really nice, and I think that they're being backed by several, if not all, of the queens.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know Coral and Thorn are invested. I think Ruby might be as well.
Yeah.
Not sure about Glacier or Moorhen. And
obviously
Glory obviously is super into it. I don't think the Rainwings have much treasure to fund it, but she's definitely offering what support she can. So
right.
Yeah, like this is like a whole continent-wide endeavor kind of social experiment to see if this works out. And then
I definitely think Queen Glacier is very much in support of it, because that's why she sends her niece and nephew.
Yeah, she sent some high-profile dragons, so like a lot of these dragons are really high-profile too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have Anemone, who's a princess. You have, well, Tsunami is a princess as well, and she's one of the administrators. You have Kinkajou and Tamarin, who are two of Glory's close friends. Winter and Icicle are the niece and nephew of Queen Glacier, which they will not let you forget ever.
No.
I just love that one.
Snobbish Knight or Snobbish Ice Wings.
Keebly? Keebly, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I always pronounce it Quibbly.
I think because there's no U, it's the hard K. I don't know.
Kibbly? Quibbly?
I mean, there's even a point, and not a spoiler, but there's a point later on in the series where they even refer to him as the one with the weird name, so...
Oh. Rip.
It's acknowledged, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to end up calling him Quibbly, because that's just the name I've been saying in my head this entire time.
The handsome Sandwing. We know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... Moon is both excited and also scared about going to this school because she's a mind reader and there's going to be a lot more dragons around than she's used to dealing with, and she hasn't really had much socialization because she's been hiding in the rainforest for most of her life. So she's like sort of like, okay, I'm going to go to school, it'll be fine, but at the same time she's like, oh Christ, I'm going to go to school.
And it won't be fine.
So yeah, but she meets the important members of her winglet because Carnelian doesn't even freaking matter.
Oh man, Carnelian.
Pour one out for Carnelian.
Yeah.
So her winglet members are Winter, who is a stuffy asshole. Umber, who's one of Clay's siblings and an overall sweetheart. Kinkajou, who is basically dynamite as a dragon. Everyone's always like, oh, Kinkajou's the Sunny of the group. She's so nice and sweet. And I'm like, she would kill you for one corn chip.
So true.
Are we reading the same book? Kinkajou is a freaking firecracker, dude. She is not subdued, or, well, neither is Sunny subdued, but...
Well, I mean, but she's not nice. Nearly as level-headed as Sunny. She's, like, way more energetic.
Yeah, it's like, she's nice, but she's way more reckless. She's way more... She's the Tsunami of this group, okay?
Well, okay, yeah, and I love that this book starts with Moon, because we get to hear the thoughts of all these dragons, because she's a mind reader. And so you get to see, like the inside of a lot of these characters right away. And Kinkajou, while she has a very nice exterior, is a sassy firecracker.
Kinkajou is ready to... She can't read, but she can read you, okay?
Right.
And yeah, that was just an absolutely brilliant move on Sutherland's part, having the introductory POV for this particular group of characters be able to see from all of their point of view so that you can very firmly establish them, because...
There's a lot of new characters to get to know, and...
Yeah, and in the Dragonet Prophecy... They've known each other such a long time that from Clay's interactions with each of them, you get a very good sense of who they are. These are dragons that are meeting for the first time, so you can't really do that without having it come off as more of an omniscient narrator.
Right.
So
Well,
that was the exact right thing to do.
and so many of them are socially awkward, especially when it comes to like Moon. And Kinkajou has her own like social anxiety in winter, especially doesn't know how to socialize at all.
Winter's a Gemini.
Right. uh and so it would be really hard to get to know all of these characters without the mind reading, unless with like someone like Quibbly, who's just very good at reading people and does know how to socialize.
Oh, but his thoughts are so interesting because he's so
Yes.
like on it all the time. His like I think Moon describes his thoughts as like, oh, I can't remember exactly, but she's like they're always going. He's always thinking like at a really high
something
speed.
about like it's like shifting sand.
Yeah, like he just goes constantly. Like he appears very laid back and relaxed on the exterior, but then inside he is constantly calculating, constantly looking for the alternatives, making sure he's doing things correctly. He's almost manipulative, but not in such a mean-spirited or kind of villainous way. Like it's all 100% well-intentioned, but it is very much, what do I say to get this person to like me? That's what I'm going to say to them. Versus what do I want to say?
Yeah.
And that's fascinating, and we get to find out why that is later. We should probably preface this by saying how far we've read. So I'm completely caught up. I've read everything that's currently available. I think you're up to Escaping Peril plus Darkstalker?
Yes.
So you have not read the last 2 books.
That is correct.
So I'm not going to say anything specifically about those, but it's like, I know the things. All right, and then who else is in? Oh, Turtle, me.
Me.
And then
me.
A roast spicy girl. Carnelian, the chicken nugget.
Oh, poor Cornelia. I was genuinely surprised when she died because I was like, all right, the Jade Winglet, they're here to stay. Like, these are going to be our main characters. Woohoo! And then kaboom! And I'm like, oh.
No, this is Wings of Fire. Children has to die.
They set up so much personality, and, you know, she had, like, a goal that she
had, like, a whole
do.
backstory that we didn't get.
Yeah, it's like all this stuff about, you know, it's like, oh, well, I just got to get back to Queen Ruby and yada, 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 and then kabloo, and I'm, oh. And she's dead.
Yeah, I was especially surprised because there was a prevailing headcanon in the fandom at the time that, like, royalty were named after Shades of Red, so I'm like, oh, her name is Carnelian. Is she, like, a royal? Like, is she a niece or something like that? And I guess not. I guess that headcanon was tossed out, but...
Yeah, from what we know, she's just a soldier. A very devout soldier, but a soldier nonetheless.
Yeah, it was surprising at the time, because a lot of people just assumed from her name that she might be connected to royalty just through fan theory, which is interesting how that happens.
Right.
Fan theory is always a wild time.
So long as fan theory doesn't get you in so deep that when the book comes out and you find out what really happened, you're not like, no, betrayal.
Yeah, unfortunately. We'll have to talk about that later on too. Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I know what you wanted. It would have been cool. I think what we got was cool, though, so calm. So anywho, after Moon gets there, she starts her voice. And this voice belongs to Darkstalker, who we heard briefly mentioned in the 5th book as someone you should be afraid of. You should.
I'm just gonna keep laughing.
Well, he's really well done. He is such a charming and charismatic antagonist that you do kind of not know whether you should trust him or not. And you're very much with Moon on, is he actually as evil as all these scrolls say, or were things taken out of context and exaggerated over time? He seems fine.
I love
but
him.
He is probably the best written villain in children's literature right now, I would say. Like, Tiger Star's pretty far up there, like first arc Warriors, Tiger Star's pretty strong villain.
Mm-hmm.
I think Darkstalker's got him beat all to hell, though.
Darkstalker is still good. I mean, there's so much I want to say about him, but it's gonna have to wait.
Yeah, to anyone who thinks that you can read this arc without reading the Darkstalker Super Edition, basically, you need to read that. It's out in paperback now. Go read it as well as this.
Don't deprive yourself from it. It's an excellent read, probably the best book in the series, but
it's so good. It is so good, and it adds so much to this series. It came out after Escaping Peril, but because of my buying habits, I ended up reading it before Winter Turning. So in Winter Turning, when a certain dragon appeared, I was like, yes!
Yeah! Well, I mean...
My longest yeah boy ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I'll have more to say about that when we get to Winter Turning.
We're still gotta get through. Okay, so Darkstalker makes his appearance. This book is a lot of exposition and a lot of stage setting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why we keep cutting in and talking about each thing as I go over it, because plot-wise, there's not a lot that happens in this book, but the character establishment and the setting establishment is A, very needed for where the series is going to go, and B, just a freaking delight to read, honestly. Literally nothing plot relevant could happen in this book at all, and I would still love it to bits because the characters are just so good.
You joked earlier about it being like a Dragon High School AU. I would have probably loved this book just as much if it was just a Dragon High School AU. It's just so entertaining, and especially from Moon's perspective and her mind reading abilities. That's why this book like just tickles all my fancies, because it's just so much fun to read. And you get so much characterization in this one book.
It is great. It is so fantastic. And okay, in the second half, we actually do get some plot to kick things off. There's an explosion that happens, and that's how Carnelian gets deep fried crispy.
What you say?
That you only meant well, of course you did. And Tamarin gets hurt, and I'm like, no, not Tamarin. God damn it.
But she's only hurt. Do not have good luck in this arc.
Thank God Tamarin survives. I would be so pissed.
Yeah.
But then they gotta find out, who was trying to assassinate and what was going on. They think that someone might be going after the Dragonets of Destiny. They are correct, but it's not the person that they thought. It turns out that, and this is actually really interesting and something that I very much love and appreciate this book for doing. So what happened, because it's not just completely separated from the first arc, which is really why you need to read the first arc first. You can't just jump in here. Yeah. Clay's siblings were soldiers in the war. They fought, and they fought specifically against the Ice Wings a lot of the time. And Sora, who is one of Clay's sisters, ended up being roommates, basically, with an Ice Wing, and specifically the Ice Wing that she believed killed their big wings. Crane was their big wings, wasn't she?
No, not their big wings. But just their sister.
Okay. I forgot which one of them. I couldn't remember if Reed had always been their big wings or if he was stepping up for Crane. Of course, with Clay absent, but
no, Reed is their replacement big wing for Clay.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, Crane was still freaking awesome, apparently. And yeah, Sora was like, yeah, at first I wasn't sure if, I was just, PTSD hallucinating that this was the same Icewing, but then I heard her talking in her sleep and she was saying all these terrible things, and I knew that she was a murderer and I had to kill her.
Right.
So the explosion was a misguided attempt from Sora to kill Icicle because she thought she would be alone in that area. At the time, she wasn't familiar with the explosive that she used or how long it would take to actually go off. So she accidentally ended up killing Carnelian and injuring Tamarin. And then she and Umber left because the students are all there under the permission of their queens, and should anything happen to them, it could go south really fast, especially if it's one tribe student attacking another tribe student. It would look
Especially if
really
that tribe student happens to be a princess.
yeah. If anything happens to Anemone,
Yeah, an enemy. Ugh.
we're dead.
Yeah. What's cool about this book is it balances, like, you have the first part where it starts off as like the high school AU, and then you get into the second part, which is more like a murder mystery, and it's a really good murder mystery.
Yeah, because, and this is the thing that I think I love about this book the most. Mind reading powers are very difficult to write well, same as future sight powers. Both of those are extremely difficult to portray without constantly having plot holes come up. And this
Right.
series does them both very well, and this one does the mind reading very well.
The book does the mind reading and the prophecy stuff so well, or like the seeing the future stuff so well. And it's something where it's like, if you explain that, like, oh yeah, it's this book that has dragons and they can read minds and see the future, like someone would probably like roll your eyes at you and be like, that sounds dumb. But I'm like, no, this is actually some of the best uses of those kinds of powers I've ever seen in a book before, ever.
Yeah, like I'm over here taking notes.
Right.
But yeah, like, so Moon and Keebly team up and start like kind of trying to get close to some other dragons and steer the conversation toward the explosion so that they can, like, she can mind read and find out who did it, because obviously whoever did it's going to be thinking about it.
Yeah, and a few of their suspects, just because Moon can't read their minds, which is very strange, is Turtle and, oh gosh, who's the other
Onyx,
dragon? Onyx, yes.
who is a Sandwing in the Gold Winglet, because all the other plot important characters are in the Gold Winglet, pretty much.
Yeah. And I do love that, there are dragons that Moon can't read, and there's a very specific reason for that, which we'll probably say in just a second. But I, Turtle is so mysterious, and especially since I haven't read Talons of Power, it's like I feel like I know nothing about Turtle yet, but
Oh, you're gonna love
he's a
him.
great character in this book and in the books to follow, because there's just so little you know about him. And the one thing you do know about him is that Moon has has like a future sight vision of him that is not very flattering and seems to be contradictory to who he's shown himself to be.
Prepare to hurt. Because, well, unfortunately, that one doesn't come out in paperback until next summer, when the first book of the third arc comes out.
I'm probably gonna have to cave and just buy the last two in hardback.
Well, you have that iPad now. Can you get them on ebook?
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to own the physical copies if I'm gonna be buying them.
But yeah, it's unfortunately these books take 1.5 to almost 2 years to come out in paperback. So, yep. Yeah, and but fortunately, I have a very good library where I can get them from. But
that's good.
I'm not waiting for the first book of the third arc. I'm just gonna probably cave and get the ebook. and just buy the paperback later.
Yeah, it's like I'm probably just going to be buying hardback from now on because it's like, well, yep, it's out. Here's
Howl's
my
in.
money.
But yeah, no, Turtle's gonna hurt real bad.
Uh,
Well, then again, like all these characters are like hashtag relatable.
right? Yes.
Like every time I'm like, Moon's the most relatable protagonist ever, and then it's like Winter's the most relatable
Relatable
protagonist.
protagonist ever.
Peril's the most relatable protagonist, and then you get to Turtle, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
Turtle is what cemented me being a Sea Wing, honestly, with my little dragon that I put on our
yeah.
videos. Pretty much the reason I decided to just throw in the towel on it and just be a Sea Wing instead of like a Skywing or a Nightwing is because of Turtle.
You read the opening paragraph to Turtle's book and you're like, yes, it's me.
I mean, pretty much.
Is it okay? Not to get into
I
Winter
don't want to
turning, but
ruin
is it any better than Winter's like opening sentence where he's just like from
I don't know if it's as early as the opening sentence, but Turtle is arguably worse.
oh poor Bab.
Like, oh, I can't tell you anything, but
Don't
Turtle's narration has a theming device to it that makes it very obvious why I relate to Turtle so much.
Ooh.
And it's really kind of cute. I love Turtle.
At the convention that I was at just, a little bit ago, there were so many people. Well, only a few people came up to me who were like, "Oh, Wings of Fire!" But the people who were there always like stopped at the table and made sure to talk to me. And they're like, "Do you have one of Turtle?" And I'm like, "I haven't read his book yet, so no." And they're like, oh, "I love Turtle so much."
Yeah, oh god, they're all so good. Why can't I hold all these favorite characters? Okay, but back. So Sora and Umber, Ollie out. But then Moon is like, Icicle is still evil, though, basically. Icicle's still a bitch and trying to kill Starflight because there's a whole other thing going on that's going to take up the next 2 books. Because
yeah,
Scarlet,
Icicle is is no good.
Just every time I see Icicle on the page, like You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch just starts playing in my head for some reason. But yeah, so she plot starts kind of moving and we see where the next couple books are going to go. Is Icicle has been contacted by Queen Scarlet using a dream visitor, because Queen Scarlet's still around. We see her at the end of book 5. And she wants revenge on the Dragonettes, especially Glory, but Glory's not at the school.
Yeah.
So she is holding Winter and Icicle's brother Hailstorm hostage and basically has made a deal with Icicle that if Icicle can kill the Dragonettes of Destiny, that she will free their brother.
Right, and their brother Hailstorm has been presumed dead for the last 2 years.
2 years, I think, because they assumed that when the Nightwings came down in the first book and killed all the Icewing prisoners that Starflight was supposed to fight, they assumed that Hailstorm was one of them.
Right.
And the Icewings are also super freaking pissed about that.
Yes.
Which, everything kind of comes back in this series. If a big event happened in the first arc and didn't really see a follow-up, it's probably going to get followed up on here.
Yeah.
Like, there have even been some extremely minor character mentions that end up being somewhat important later. There's even in this book, I'm pretty sure in Moon Rising, there is setup for the 3rd arc. And it's like the teeniest, tiniest little throwaway line that you would never suspect. It's when Darkstalker is showing Moon, like, the good future.
Oh.
And let me see if I can find it. Like, he shows her the future, and he's like, oh, this is what it could be. And it's like the Dragonettes of Destiny with their kids.
Oh.
looking back on it, the way one of them was described, I'm like, that was foreshadowing for the third arc.
Oh, I love
Because,
it.
like, when I first read it, I thought that it meant one thing, but I'm thinking now it might have meant something else.
Speaking of Darkstalker,
And I can't share that with you because you're not there yet.
Soon.
I want
Hopefully
to
soon.
theorize with you, Tennille.
But speaking of Darkstalker, kind of going back to him, so throughout this whole book, Darkstalker's been talking to Moon and like actually being helpful, trying to figure out this murder mystery, but also trying to convince Moon to help him because he has been stuck underground for 2,000, 5,000 years, something like that.
2,000 or so?
I think it's 2,000.
Stuck down there a long ass time.
Yeah, and he eventually mentions a scroll, and he's like, the scroll has all my magic in it because I am also an animus dragon. I put all my magic into the scroll so that I wouldn't go nuts so like animus dragons do underground for. Would you find this for me, and then that would be how you free me?